Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends. Welcome to another edition of This Week in Magic the Gathering. So this is going to be a little different. We're not going to do Q&A this week. I have two topics to talk about. One's going to be pretty lengthy, so I didn't want the video to go super long. So the first one will be World Magic Cup. I just wanted to get some attention on that. It's an awesome event, and I feel like with this crazy news cycle that it kind of got buried under some other things. And then secondly, we'll talk about those other things, which is basically the Wizards of the Coast response to the Oath of the Gatewatch leaks. So let's jump in and look at the World Magic Cup first. I'll leave a link in the comments below so you guys can take a better look at this, but this is an awesome event. I just wanted to give it a little bit of attention. Sometimes I think it doesn't get all the attention that some other events do. One, because it's not a true pro tour, and not everyone who qualifies for this is necessarily a pro. But secondly, too, because there's a limited amount of players from each country, and it takes place typically in Europe every year, that a lot of times the United States doesn't get as much exposure to it because it's on very early in the morning. Not a lot of people get to watch the live stream, but it's an awesome event. If you didn't get to watch it, check out the YouTube channel for Wizards of the Coast and watch some of the matches. Really some great coverage that they did, awesome coverage, and just a great event. Congratulations to Italy, who came in first. Thailand came in second, France third, Austria fourth, fifth went to Denmark, sixth Guatemala, seventh Scotland, and finally eighth was Japan to round out the top eight. Big surprise, the United States and Canada, who had maybe were pretty heavy favorites, had some very strong players on the team, did not make it to day two. But it just goes to show you that the format, you have unified standard and team draft is a little different than maybe a lot of players are used to playing. So I think it's a good thing. I think this is an amazing event. Definitely check it out, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of credit where credit's due because they did a fantastic job here. All right, so let's move on to the big story of the week. Again, I'll have a link to this as well, but Wizards of the Coast replied to the leak situation. So let me give you a little background first. A few days back, some photos emerged on a photo sharing site of a number of cards from Oath of the Gatewatch. And this included pretty much all the expeditions, pretty much all the mythics, included two of the planeswalkers. Huge leak. It appeared to come from somebody either who worked at or was related to the printer or foiling process that's probably under contract. And yeah, they had pretty much everything out there. So from at least from a mythic rare point of view and some of the rares. So Wizards as a company obviously are going to be very hurt by that. That is a huge blow to any company. And let me share a little bit of my personal experience with you. I worked for a major entertainment company for 20 years, and I was involved in a lot of very high profile projects, things that I'm sure you've heard of. And when we were working on those projects, the worst thing that can happen is a leak, and it has happened to me. And typically as the project gets closer to completion, you start bringing more people in, and at some point something gets leaked out there, and bloggers will pick it up, news outlets will pick it up, and they'll start reporting on it. And the whole plan that you worked really hard on for a very long time of how you were going to either release this information or surprise people when the product comes out, it just kind of goes down the tubes, and a lot of hard work and time and energy just goes along with it. And it's very personal. I mean, work is your time away from your family. That's a very personal thing, and when you feel like you wasted that time, it's very painful. You take a lot of pride in the project with the other people you work with, and when something like that happens, it just hurts. So I get the feeling of betrayal. I get the emotional feeling that comes from being in a situation like that. And I think because of that, I might have kind of a unique take on it, but also too, I may be even a little more critical in some ways because I have lived through it as a leader for a major company, and there are some things I probably would have done differently, which I'll kind of talk about. So anyway, yesterday, Trick Jarrett, who is the community manager of Wizards of the Coast, he released an article on the main website, Why Leaks Hurt. Again, there'll be a link in the comments below. I want you guys to read it, really. I'm not going to sit here and read it for you, obviously. That'd be boring. But read it, because there's a lot of really good stuff in here. He makes awesome points, really talks a little bit about, you really feel the emotion from him, like why this is so painful and why it hurts. And yeah, sure, the bottom line is it hurts because Wizards is going to lose money. But the people that are involved in creating this campaign and the advertising and marketing piece, they're not personally losing money out of their paycheck or anything like that, but it's a big blow to your just excitement and your pride in your work and everything when something like this happens. So it does make you angry, and when I've been in situations like that, yeah, I want that person to be found. I want that person to be either fired or the contract to be terminated, or if they sign like a non-disclosure agreement that legal action is taken. You want that. You're just so frustrated, and now over time you calm down a little bit, obviously, but I understand the emotion, and there's a lot of emotion in this piece, and I think he makes some awesome points, so definitely check it out. Now, having said that, there were a few lines in here that did upset some people in the community, and we'll look at the 2 lines in particular that I felt definitely probably rubbed some people the wrong way. I'll let you know how I felt about them. But first, let's talk about the leak a little bit. From my experience, I think it's one of 2 things. This leak was not a blogger or a news person or anything like that. This leak was just put out there anonymously, so they weren't trying to get any sort of notoriety or financial boost from this or anything like that. This was somebody who either A, loved Magic and happened to be in the right place at the right time and stumbled on this stuff and just thought, hey, I'd want to know this, so maybe other people want to know it, and I'm just going to put it out there. They don't have to look at it if they don't want to. Obviously not the right thing to do, very naive thought, but that may have been their thinking. The other side of the coin is this could have been a disgruntled worker at the printing company. This could be somebody who's making minimum wage, who's not real happy with their job, maybe feels disrespected from their leadership, and this is maybe an opportunity for them to ruin a huge contract with a huge corporation, and they were going to take advantage of it. If I were to guess, it would be one of those 2 things that happened. We'll probably never know, and that's usually how these things go. Typically, you never do find out. Sometimes you do, but usually you don't. And I don't think we will in this case necessarily, so I guess we'll see. But so anyway, having said all that, Trick's article comes out, and there is a big response, and I read it, and here's the 2 things. Let's talk about the 2 portions that I think people took exception to. The first one is this paragraph here basically says, as a person who used to run a fan site that would occasionally leak something, I know the lure for content creators. Leaks draw traffic and they give you something new to talk about, but let's get one thing straight. Leaks aren't journalism. Publishing links is purely self-serving. Publishing leaks is purely self-serving, looking out for the good of yourself and your ego. Wow. Okay. So that's a very pointed statement. That is a very emotional statement. And typically, especially when you're representing a big company, you don't want to put that much emotion or say anything that could be taken the wrong way by anybody. In this case, content creators, who are people who are basically doing free advertising for you. So, myself, I'm a very small YouTuber. I've only been doing this for a few months. I have about a little over 1,200 subscribers, but I put out 4 to 8 videos a week myself, advertising their products. and I'm small. There's people obviously have 90,000, 100,000 subs, and they're putting stuff out, even if it's 2, 3, 4 times a week. That's huge. So you want to be careful not to alienate any of those people, because they're just doing free work for you. Number one. So as far as the points go there, I will say this. The leak itself, no, is not journalism. If I walk down the street and I see these cards laying on the ground and I take a picture of them and decide it's a good idea to send them out to the world, that's not journalism. That's probably sensationalism at best, and it's just hurtful to the people that work on this and to a major company and to the community as a whole. It's not a good thing. This leak in general is not good for anybody. But on the other side of the coin, once that leak's out there and the genie's out of the bottle, guess what, folks? That is journalism. I think that's maybe the classic example of journalism. And I'll tell you why content creators reported on this. I'll tell you why I reported on it. As far as getting more followers or money or anything like that, I'm going to share something with you that I probably shouldn't share. I'm not really supposed to talk about YouTube monetization and all that sort of stuff, but I just want you to get this kind of small picture. At the time I checked, I had under 400 views on that video, so I was getting close to 400. I had made 30 cents off that video. 30 cents. 30 cents. So now multiply that by, there's people out there that probably could get maybe 20,000, 30,000 views on a video. So multiply it out, but they're still only making a few dollars, right? They're not getting rich off of this at all. As far as followers go, I didn't get any jump in subscribers or anything like that either from it personally. So I put it out there, and I hope I'm speaking for the other content creators. I put this out there because this was news that I felt that the people who follow me need to know. And here's why. So this information gets out there. It's on major websites. But let's face it, the people looking at this stuff are hardcore. You guys watching this video right now are probably pretty hardcore. You're probably big Magic fans like I am. You're not the casual in and out players for the most part. If you're taking the time to listen to this stuff. So this information comes out, and one thing Trick says in the article is it's not really fair because this information now goes out to certain individuals but not to other individuals. So some people get an unfair advantage. They get to start planning for their decks in the future earlier. They get to think about their pre-release deck and their card pool ahead of time. Yeah, you are learning, you are having more time to examine the cards and figure them out, but all the more reason, once it's out there, I think it just needs to be out there. I would be irresponsible, I think, if I didn't share with my community this information in case they hadn't heard it, because now they're the ones that are being kind of left behind. Also, from a financial viewpoint, it's very, very important that I share with you guys if I find out, hey, Horizon Canopy is going to be reprinted. Hey, you have 18 Horizon Canopies sitting in a binder somewhere. You might want to know this information sooner than later. So that type of stuff is important for me and would be irresponsible for me not to share with you guys. That is journalism. Like I said, if I was the originator of the leak, that'd be wrong. I agree. That's not journalism. But once it's out there, kind of trying to hide it is not the right thing to do either. It isn't the responsibility of journalists or content creators or whoever to decide what news should be made public and what news needs to be kept quiet for the good of a large corporation. It's really not how things work, unfortunately. So I don't want to let my subscribers down. I'm sure that's why other content creators have done the same thing and report on this. It's news that needed to be reported on. You guys needed to know what happened. That's it. It sucks. I don't like it. I didn't like reporting on all those spoilers, quite honestly. I think it kind of sucks the way it came out for Wizards, for the people that worked on that, and for the community as a whole, because it's not just Wizards hurt by this. Now, Wizards is probably hurt the most, obviously. They're taking a huge financial impact. They will lose sales. I'm going to tell you that right now. Just the fact that they're not going to be able to go into the set release with the same momentum that they would have if this didn't happen. They'd be teasing these cards out over the next 6 weeks. We'd be super excited about all this stuff, and we'd go out and we'd run to the pre-release. But unfortunately, now we've seen a lot of the good stuff. It's exciting right now. 7 weeks from now, we might not be super excited about it anymore as time passes, and we might not run out to that pre-release. This will negatively impact sales. They are being hurt by this as a company, and that's not cool. Content creators also being hurt by this. I'll be honest with you. First off, all those people that get spoilers, they lost the thunder of their special exclusive spoiler. That's not cool. Secondly, even someone like myself who haven't been doing this long enough or have the following to get a spoiler or anything, but I get a lot of new subscribers during that time period where we're doing spoilers and set reviews and that type of thing, because that's when the more casual fans will cross over and start to want to learn more about the set. And I'm willing to bet I don't quite get as big of a push this time, because I don't think that information is going to be quite as exciting prior to the set release. So I think the community as a whole is hurt. Also, if people aren't as excited, that means less players, and less players hurts the community too. So this is bad for everybody. This isn't good, but you have to be very careful, I think, of where you're pointing your frustration, even if it's unintentional. And I do think it was unintentional, and I don't know if it meant to come out the way it did, but it can be certainly taken that the community was being blamed, or members of the community were being blamed, as opposed to the person who's actually doing the leak or along with that person. So that's kind of the first part that was a little maybe distasteful. I don't know if it's the right word. Here's the other part. Now, this line, I mean, some people I know were offended by this. I want to go as far as to say it was offensive. Distasteful, yes. But this line here, would you go on your friend's Facebook page and announce a pregnancy if you found a positive pregnancy test in their bathroom? No, that would make you a terrible human being because it's not your news to give. And when the world gets to know it is up to that person and their significant other. Yeah. So I'm laughing because reading it out loud, it just sounds silly. Reading in your head doesn't sound as bad. I think reading it out loud, wow, I'm just shocked all over again. But here's the issue with that line. You can't, it's never a good idea. A little tip for everyone out there. It's never a good idea to draw a correlation between a multi-billion-dollar company and the confidence and trust of your best friend and their wife or partner. In the example that he gave there, these are two very, very different things, and you're almost asking for some backlash comparing the two. I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to make you think about it in a different way. He's trying to make you think about it in a more relatable term. If you've never had experience working for a large corporation or dealing in a situation where you had to kind of keep things under wraps for the good of the company, he's trying to create a situation that's more relatable. Unfortunately, they're kind of apples and oranges, and it really kind of comes off as a little distasteful, unfortunately. Again, maybe a little more thought should have gone into it or what have you, but or maybe an editor could have caught that, or somebody could have caught that, because it just did not come out very good. And those were the two statements mostly that created kind of the backlash. So I guess the next thing that happened with all this is the backlash started to happen on Twitter. Again, I'll leave a link so you can check out some of the interactions. And kudos, Tricks trying to answer all these comments. I think for the most part, trying to stay positive, trying to thank people for their feedback, all good stuff. I mean, feedback's a gift. Feedback from the community is very important for personal development as well as organizational development. So that's great. You need to listen to this feedback and take it seriously, which I believe he did. But I will say one piece of advice, I guess if I was doing it a little differently, I probably would not have responded as quickly to some of the comments. This is very emotional, like I said with the article, and when you're getting a lot of comments and you're dealing with the public, and I know again firsthand, it can be frustrating, and there's people who might even be rude at times. Their comments might be rude or standoffish, but being the community manager representing the company, you really have to take the high road. You really have to kind of put your hat in your hand, apologize, and kind of move on. So I understand what you're saying. Here's the point I'm trying to make. I totally get where you're coming from, but here's the implications. Now, some of his responses, not all, but some, did come off a little short, a little standoffish, and I think that's counterproductive. It's not really helping solve the situation at this point. Maybe you just don't respond to some of the comments if they're really negative or out of line or what have you. But some of the comments that he responded back, I felt were maybe mildly disrespectful, or at least short, and you could feel the frustration, which is not where you want to be. Again, he's talking to people who are giving him, in some cases anyway, free advertising, and giving his company free advertising, and you just need to be very cognizant of that as you have these conversations with people in the professional environment. So Twitter also, I don't know, maybe not the most professional environment in general, but that's neither here nor there. That's the world we live in nowadays, I think. Real quick, I'll leave a link to this as well. I just want to give a quick kudos shout out to Mark Rosewater. As always, great representative of the company, great face of the company. He did come out and say at one point, as things started to escalate, that I think somebody left a tweet saying, they felt like the article was trying to shame the community, and Mark came out and said, no, we're not shaming the community, we're trying to shame the the person that made the leak, not the community, which I think was a good thing to say. Now, personally, I don't really think you should be out there to shame the person doing the leak either. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but aside from that, I mean, the right thing, it was what needed to be said at that time, I think, and good for him for keeping a level head, I think, as he always does when he talks to the community. So really kind of enjoyed seeing that. So, well, where do we go from here? Let me tell you my personal feelings on the situation. Again, being from having similar experiences. I just think at the end of the day, as a company, you can't really blame anyone but yourself for this happening. If I was in his shoes, and it's really easy to play armchair quarterback. It's really easy to look back and say, woulda, shoulda, coulda. And it's not all about pointing out the faults that Trick or anyone else made through this process. Like I said, he put a lot of great content in there, and I think he did a lot of the right things. I don't want to dwell too much on the things that maybe were missteps, or at least in my opinion, missteps. But personally, when I read it, I could understand why people were getting upset. I mean, I didn't take anything in here personally, quite honestly, but I could see how some people could. You gotta look at it this way. If you were to ask me how would I handle it, what if Star Wars is coming out tonight at the time of this recording, what if the Walt Disney Company had somebody spoil the end of Star Wars, and it went out there, Entertainment Tonight ran the story, maybe the NBC Nightly News ran the story, whoever runs the story, bloggers throw it out there. Do you think the Walt Disney Company would come out with a statement telling the Entertainment Tonight or NBC Nightly News or whoever that this isn't journalism, that they should never have compromised our potential growth as a company and profit by reporting this news, that's not journalism? Yeah, probably not, right? The Walt Disney Company is a big company. They wouldn't make that mistake. Not to say they haven't made mistakes in the past. I don't think they make that mistake. So you just wouldn't see that. You just wouldn't see that from a large company that's been around the block a few times with this type of stuff. Personally, the way I would have handled it, one of two things. Either A, don't address it. Don't address it at all. That's what they've done in the past. And the reason I say that is because addressing it actually made it a bigger news story than not addressing it. No one would be talking about this right now if they didn't say anything about it. So the fact of the matter was the leak happened. The hardcore players, you and I, we saw it happen, okay, but most of the casual players probably wouldn't even have noticed. You could have just done your rollout like normal. They probably wouldn't even have known. However, now you go ahead and you put a big article out on the main website. People start reading that. Whoa, what happened? Where's this leak? They're gonna start looking for it. They're gonna find it. And on top of that, you got all these people on Twitter and on Reddit and talking about it, and it's just building more momentum than it really needed to. So that's kind of crazy that it resolved that way. But really, you could have just ignored it. That's an option. The work that has to be done isn't by coming out in an article and saying, "Hey, community, don't leak stuff." It's got to be going to the contractors that are doing the printing, figuring out what happened, and putting a system in place to fix it in the future. Now, if you can find the person that did it and there's repercussions there, awesome. But the bottom line is that what's important is that it doesn't happen again. You got to put a system in place that prevents it from happening. That's Wizard's job at this point. It's not the job of you or I or anybody else in the community. That's Hasbro and Wizard's job to do as a company, and they really can't pass any of the blame for what happened. Now, if I did feel like this message is important and I still wanted to get it out there, another option would be I could do the message, but you got to be humble. You got to be humble about it. You have to take responsibility for the mistakes that happened. Again, you got to take your hat, put it in your hand and say, you know what? We apologize to the community. We dropped the ball here. Our system that we had in place did not work. It failed. And because of that, somebody leaked this information. It hurt us as a company. It hurt our profits. It's hurting our bottom line. Be transparent. Share that. It's hurting all the people that we were going to give exclusive cards to. It's taking the thunder out of those. It's hurting you guys as a community who's not going to have an exciting spoiler season that's going to help you build more followers. It's not going to help the players out there who are going to maybe have less people to play with because there's not as much excitement around this next set, and some people might fall off of Magic. It's hurting us all, but it's our bad. We need to fix it. Help us fix it in the future. If you know of anyone who's in a situation where they're thinking of doing something like this, try to talk them out of it. Do whatever you can to help us protect this product that you guys love and this game that you guys love. Please help us. We're all in this together. But at the end of the day, this is our bad, our fault, and we're sorry. That's what the message should have been. That's what the message would have been if I was giving it, quite honestly. And hey, like I said, I don't want to come off as being too negative or blame Trick or anybody at Wizards. I think they did the best they could in this situation, having never kind of walked through it before. I myself have had the luxury of experience, I guess. I've screwed up. I've made mistakes. I've done and said the wrong thing many, many times. And I learned from it. That's all that I ever ask of myself or the people that worked for me, is that if something like this happens, you learn from it, you move on. And next time you handle it better, and it gets better. And that's how you grow as a person, how you grow as an organization in the business world. Just how it is. No one's perfect. People are going to make mistakes. I love the enthusiasm. I love the fact that Trick is frustrated. He should be. I love the fact that he's emotional about his job. He should be. Good for him, and good for him for pointing out a lot of the good things in this article that needed to be said. And maybe it would have just helped if someone else read over it, another editor or somebody who could have softened it a little bit. I don't know. You just needed to take some of the emotion out of it, I think is all it came down to, quite honestly. And we'll move on. We'll get through it. It will get better, right? So anyway, I mean, all this is just my opinion. I mean, let me know what you guys think, if you agree, disagree, in the comments below. And like I said, I think I have kind of a unique opinion because of my experience, and that's why I wanted to take the time to share it with y'all. Anyway, next week or later in this week, we'll do a more regular episode of This Week in Magic the Gathering. I'll get back to you in Q&A, so if you do have any other questions you'd like to share, feel free to put them in the comments below. I have a number of them for the next episode already, and hopefully there won't be any other huge news stories that will keep us from doing that. And as always, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day.
Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality videos for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a good day.